episode 62 of Fist of the North Star, 1 point. The keyword for this episode is going to be example. In this episode, we get, let's say, a proper representation, exhibition of both 𝚎 and 𝚎𝚎. Well, we see 𝚎's side, right? They don't have much food to eat. They get poisoned in this episode, I believe, and so you see their situation, and 𝚎 gets angry because that's, at the end of the day, 𝚎𝚎's doing. It's in this episode that 𝚎 fights against 𝚎𝚎, and then the Hokuto Shinken doesn't work, and so on, right? So we see the two things. The keyword is example, because I would argue, if we may call this arguing, that 𝚎 and 𝚎𝚎 are, let's say, I would say, they are both one kind of example to 𝚎. Well, 𝚎 is pretty obvious already, right? Like the paternal figure. He's some sort of guide for 𝚎. He's very close to Toki in many aspects, and I really want to develop this later. So I'm not going to go too much into details because there is much to say, but I'm just going to talk about the example thing, yeah? So 𝚎 is pretty interesting in the regard that that's benevolence. Really, 𝚎 has to fight for what 𝚎 is fighting for, and that's what he's going to do, and that's what he wants to do already, and so he's this kind of example already. But I will develop very soon, 𝚎 maybe later, as it's more obvious, but then there are interesting details. But I'm soon going to develop how 𝚎𝚎 is a very interesting figure in relation to 𝚎. So 𝚎𝚎 isn't a random antagonist. Really, he's specifically very important for 𝚎. And for now, I think the only thing I'm going to say is that if 𝚎 is the peak of the Hokuto, well, he's supposed to be the only successor, but then there is this whole confrontation between the Hokuto brothers, right? If 𝚎 is the peak of the Hokuto, 𝚎𝚎 is the peak of the Nanto. I'm not going to say much more than this, but for now, we'll get a bit of development also very soon, and we'll already have the indications that 𝚎 fights for love, and 𝚎𝚎 doesn't care. He already says it, right? An emperor doesn't need emotions, affection, compassion, right? And so that's the example of being this peak fighter in your martial art, not caring about emotions, not caring about anything. You just dominate, just rule, which is what 𝚎 does. Really, 𝚎 is, you could really imagine 𝚎 as 𝚎𝚎's counterpart in the Hokuto. And so those ruthless, dominant types of warriors, right? But, of course, 𝚎 is not the real successor of the Hokuto Shinken. That's 𝚎, and 𝚎 fights against 𝚎𝚎 and loses here. And so it's that kind of evil example, as we're going to develop it very soon, and there is 𝚎's example, and 𝚎 desperately tries to follow that one, as 𝚎 is also some sort of father for 𝚎, of course. So, for now, I leave it at this.